So, all right. So, a very good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on this webinar, on this presentation, where we are going to present to you the headlines and sort of our key takeaways that we collectively went through last week when we were in Las Vegas at the Microsoft Inspire 2018. And if we can advance the slide, please. So my name is Michael Hartmann. I'm the CEO for QBS. And just some ground rules for this webinar. So this is being recorded, so you can also watch and listen to it after this presentation. So we also share the PowerPoint, and your lines are muted. However, you can ask questions anytime during the chat window, and of course at the end of the presentation we will allow for Q&A and hopefully get a good dialogue. So the Inspire conference is, as probably most of you know, the succession of the Worldwide Partner Conference, and it's the annual event, the premier annual event, and it was a bit of a premiere this time around, because for the very first time Microsoft basically put together the Inspire, so the partner conference, as well as their internal sales and marketing conference called Ready. So both conferences were not only held at the same venue, which was Las Vegas, but also in the same week. And in fact, there was an overlap of one day where both the Microsoft people and the partners were all sitting together in the same sessions. And it's a kickoff for the fiscal year, so in this case, fiscal year 19. And beside all the presentations, one of the big themes or opportunities is the networking that happens with those partners that attend, as well as the Microsoft people. And you have to think about 40,000 people, which is actually quite amazing if you think about that size. But from what I heard, this only is in between 5 and 8% of the capacity of hotel rooms that Las Vegas has. So there's still room to grow out of the 40,000 into even a bigger audience for Inspire next year round. So if we can advance the slide, please. So we're actually 3 people here. We were a total of 7 people from the QBS group in Las Vegas. But with me, I also have Will McIntee, our regional lead from UK.
Hello.
I will. And we also have Mark Blackmore with us. He's one of our partner account managers in the UK. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Michael. Hi, everyone.
So just to introduce our agenda, so don't expect death by PowerPoint this afternoon. So we will not go through too many slides. What we want to do is have a bit of a dialogue between myself, Will, and Mark, and talk a bit about the highlights and our interpretation of the priorities and how it relates to you as partners. And we're gonna go through that probably in 6 chapters, if you will. One is to talk a bit about the product strategy that Microsoft updated and introduced during the keynote sessions that they had at Inspire. We want to talk a bit about the priorities that Microsoft has shared with their field people, so that you also understand how the Microsoft people that you probably have an interaction with, how they are charged for the next fiscal year. We want to talk about the partner strategy, so how is Microsoft evolving the partner strategy? how do they bring their products to markets, and we want to put a special focus on the Cloud Solution Provider program. We want to have a bit of a dialogue, what that means for us as Dynamics partners, and what should we do, and what would be our recommendations to you, and hopefully that can segue into a good dialogue that we have as part of this presentation this afternoon. So let's go into a bit of the product strategy, and no surprise, it was all about the digital transformation, but also about the empowered experiences. So the strategy that Microsoft set forward being the intelligent cloud, but then connected with the intelligent edge. So devices that are intelligently communicating with each other and are exchanging data with the intelligent cloud. So that was sort of the core. But let me start basically, Mark, because you have been at the Inspire for the first time, really. What was your key highlight when it comes to product strategies?
I think first and foremost, from my experience, the whole event was something different to what I've experienced in the past. I mean, I attended Directions back in Madrid last year, and I thought that would prepare me for the whole experience. But it's a much larger scale, and dare I say, less familiar faces. But in terms of product strategy, what stood out most for me was the move, not so much the move away from business applications such as ERP and CRM, but it's more, they give more airtime around the surround products, Power Apps and Flow, and making it more of a, as you said, empowering your customer and your employees to deliver better results. That's probably key to the message that Microsoft's got going forward for fiscal year 19. Basically that is then delivering that sort of cultural transformation that Microsoft is hoping to embody across the company. Okay.
Yeah, that was the surrounding products. I mean, the whole Power App suite was a big theme, and to build on that, Will, what was your sort of highlight when it came down to the product strategy?
So I think Mark's kind of hitting the nail on the head in many respects. I think, looking at lots of familiar names on this call, we're used to dealing with ERP, or we're used to dealing with CRM typically. I think as looking at the product strategy, Microsoft are trying to blur the lines a lot more between an ERP workload and a CRM workload, and front and center of that piece of the product strategy was Power Apps, Power BI, and Flow. Microsoft did also give a lot of airtime to data, and in particular AI. I went to a few sessions where, quite frankly, people should have been there in white lab coats because the thing was so different, quite frankly, to what we used to experiencing. If there's any data scientists or statisticians amongst the callers today, then you are in a great place to get early mover advantage with AI. But when I look at like the four, let's call them the workloads that we're used to talking about, right? Like modern workplace, business applications, cloud infrastructure, data, and AI. The big thing for me was the blurring of the lines. The fact that if we don't become experts in one of these additional workloads, then at least we have to have a strategy around it. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think just to add to that point, I think there was a theme around democratizing AI, which to me is sort of a theme that Microsoft always had, that they were bringing down enterprise type technology into SMB. And so you can look at AI almost like becoming more packaged, becoming more standardized, so that even in an SMB solution, you can take advantage of some of the AI benefits that used to only adapt or only benefit the enterprise segment. And I think, back to Mark's point about, the blurry line between ERP, CRM, there was a demo that they did about a European account, Carlsberg from Denmark. And what I found interesting is when they demoed the solution that they had with a modern interface, with mobile access, it wasn't necessarily clear at any given point in time if it was now the business application, which in this case was actually SAP, or it was the productivity side with Office 365, or was it the communication side with Skype? So it was all integrated from a user interface perspective. And I would also argue what has really impressed me was how much dynamics was core and center to the product strategy, right?
Yeah, huge, right? I mean, we're used to, Michael and I guess we've been going to WPC and Inspire for the last, well, it feels like a very long time. It's probably not more than 15 years. Well, I hope not. And sometimes we used to struggle for airtime, right? As from a dynamics perspective, but it felt to me that actually business applications was almost front and center in a lot of what Microsoft talked about.
Yeah, it was to a point where Satya, when he talked about in his keynote about the cultural transformation that needs to happen in the workforce, that this will be enabled by Microsoft 365 and Dynamics 365. So he always mentioned like those two cloud services in one sentence, and I think you cannot get more core and center than that. So I think that is really good news for everyone that is dealing with Dynamics.
I think another message, Michael, is the thank you that's in the top right hand corner of the screen. And guys, that relates to Dynamics 365 having a 65% growth in the first 3 quarters of fiscal 2018. That's a more extensive growth than Office 365. So as I said, it's a good time for you guys and us to be Dynamics partners, and they are planning on investing a lot more heavily in the Dynamics range going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe good to talk a bit about the priorities that Microsoft then set for the field. So maybe we can advance the slide. And Will, you have been with Microsoft quite a while yourself. So if you look, these are the priorities that you see here on the screen that Alicia Taylor gave to the Microsoft field in terms of these are the top 5 priorities for Dynamics. So whoever touches Dynamics, regardless if it's marketing or sales, this should be the 5 highest priorities. So what do you take out of that?
So there's one thing that's regardless of whether we went to WPC in 2003 or Inspire in 2018, the first thing that Microsoft will always lead with is customer ads, winning net new business. Now, I expect that's no big news for you guys, but I did detect a real shift actually in terms of the way Microsoft perceives sales taking place. So for example, if you think about our traditional sales cycles today. Our traditional sales cycles today from an ERP and a CRM perspective are typically 90 days plus. What we're looking to do, and this is very much in line with the product strategy, is almost like a land and expand strategy. So, secure the initial customer win with, let's say, maybe a lightweight Power App development, or engage with Power BI to kind of speed up the acquisition of the customer. We do see this actually happen in let's say competitive ERP and CRM channels, where the customers landed probably a lot more quicker than we've traditionally done in Dynamics, and it's great to see Microsoft coming up with some pretty good ideas around this. When I look at priority number 3 in terms of securing the customer base, there's one really easy way to do this, which is what we've talked about previously, the surround strategy. And that's a surround strategy from a say Microsoft technology perspective, but also from a partner IP perspective, whether that's partner IP written in Power Apps, CRM, Power BI. Think about how you can, if you like, surround your customer with relevant technology and keep them really happy with great IP, because once we secure, that actually naturally leads to growth. So I mean, I really like actually that Microsoft actually thought about this really succinctly and actually delivered it really well.
Yep, they did. Just wondering, Mark, from your perspective, was there anything that you felt either surprising or that you didn't expect when you saw the priorities and how they communicated that to the Microsoft field?
I'm more surprised in terms of their focus around customers than being this corporate organization that historically Microsoft have dare I say been portrayed or portrayed themselves. Now, I haven't been around the Microsoft ecosystem that long, but that's the general impression that I had from a number of partners while I was there at Inspire last week. But one thing that was really that I found really beneficial for our partners is the new readiness and learning opportunities within Microsoft. I know that they plan on introducing a brand new learning platform internally and externally. That's purely based around role-based learning, which is going to help us and our partners to be able to grow and generate more opportunities for ourselves and for the community, but also, as Will has just pointed out, create new IP and cement that customer retention. Investing in customer retention is something that they also focused on, building success stories, rewarding the community, and building a more vibrant Microsoft Dynamics ecosystem.
I think that's a real important point. I think what you also see as a fifth point, and which is a great segue also into the partner strategy that Microsoft has, is because I think there was not only a commitment to partners, but actually, if you think about it, that Microsoft really brought together the partner conference and their internal sales and marketing conference was a signal that in the eyes of a customer, Microsoft fundamentally believes that for a customer, Microsoft and its partners are be seen as one. So it's not that a customer distinguishes necessarily between, okay, this is Microsoft, this is the partner. Customer typically look at a solution and they want to get the best out of that solution provided by Microsoft technology and brought to them by partners. So I think Microsoft has really gone a long way to now integrate partners even deeper than they did before. In the past, they used to talk about this one Microsoft in a sense of, okay, there's one Microsoft, meaning regardless which segment you're working inside Microsoft or if you work in marketing, you should look at Microsoft as being one organization. They're now extending, and actually they said that in one of the keynotes that one Microsoft means this one Microsoft ecosystem that includes Microsoft and partners. And so I think there's a strong commitment to partners, also in a sense of asking partners to build more connections with each other. so that if you're short of capacity, if you're short of capability, team up with other partners. And team up with people that can bring this additional capacity, can bring capabilities or new business opportunities. So I think that was a strong theme that we captured during the conference as well. Maybe if we can advance the slide, please, one more, because there was a lot of talk about the partner strategy, and so. In terms of the overall message, Will, what was the core message that you got out of the partner strategy that Microsoft, beside one Microsoft?
Yeah. So I'll try and decorporate this because it's great being drinking of the Microsoft Kool-Aid for 4 or 5 days, but sometimes you've got to rinse your mouth out and speak ordinary person language. So for me, big takeaway from partners is expansion, and whether that's expanding existing skill sets, expanding into additional workloads, or expanding via partnership. Expansion for me would probably be the big word to take away from that, because if we look at success in selling, if I don't think actually anybody in Microsoft are expecting Dynamics 365 to grow as quickly as it has, particularly in the corporate and enterprise space. We've now got a great chance with Business Central. And this means that we do have to have a cloud. We do have to have our cloud strategies. Now, Microsoft have been leading with the cloud for the last 2 or 3 years. We need to ensure that if NAV is our primary product, we need to ensure that we have and we can expand with our own cloud strategy. And let's face it, that cloud strategy is more than likely going to be Business Central. Okay, so it's all about planning and executing on your expansion, whether it's expanding the size of your capability, expanding into the cloud, or expansion via partnerships. That'd be the big thing for me.
Okay, and one other big thing that we captured was this whole co-sell, right? That Microsoft, this co-sell strategy.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Mark. What do you make for co-sell when it comes to our QBS partners? How relevant is the co-sell motion really?
Co-sell is fundamentally the opportunity to work with the One Commercial Partner Program. And that's my understanding of it. Basically, that's enabling partners to build more solutions and bring them to market. Essentially, helping them to grow and expand their business. Sorry, Will, I'm stealing your words, but
that's okay. They're great words, so you carry on.
Great, thanks. And I'm going to go back to expansion, because even though it's expanding your product portfolio, it is the theme that I took from the partner strategy and from last week was all around partnership, whether that's externally with partner-to-partner engagement, whether that's partnering with Microsoft through the One Commercial Partner Program or MPN. The opportunity is there for the Dynamics community to grow and build their business and take their business to the next level. And if you don't, what I'm trying to get to is you don't want to be left behind. If you don't make those changes now, then the opportunities will become less and less. So my advice is to think about your strategy for the next 3 to 5 years. What are you looking to achieve in 3 years' time? Start moving now. Start thinking about how you partner with people, how you go to market with go to market with your products, and even what products you're going to be selling. But also consider verticalization, because that was also, again, key to a lot of the Microsoft messaging this week. There were some industry sessions, not many, but there were some industry sessions that focused on things like not-for-profit, education, the core industry verticals that Microsoft based their Dynamics 365 product range around when it first came out. There is a commitment from Microsoft, I believe. Now, Will and Michael will probably correct me if I'm wrong, but that they're looking to expand the verticalization of Dynamics 365. But how they're looking to do that is to work with partners to expand that industry knowledge. So if you've got IP in a certain vertical, then it's worth going to market with that and creating your own product set.
So I think you make a good point there, Mark, around the co-sell piece. And if you like, with Microsoft, the co-sell, the signal that we got loud and clear, co-sell starts with app source. Co-sell starts without app source and what they internally refer to as the One Commercial Partner Catalog, the OCP catalog. So if you haven't, big tip, if you haven't investigated AppSource, you haven't spoken to your QBS partner account manager about AppSource, go and have a look at it and start thinking about what your strategy around AppSource is, because that is going to be the marketplace for Microsoft, not only from an IP perspective, but also from a partner services perspective. And that's, if you like, the start of the co-sell journey.
I think that interestingly, the co-sell motion that Microsoft has different flavors, right? So there is if you will, an enterprise and corporate account flavor, where the threshold for a partner to get into co-sell is actually quite high. So you have to have, of course, gold status, but you also have to be not only in AppSource and the OCP catalog, but you have to be part of the solution map, which is sort of the enterprise version of it. So only then you can expect that your solution get picked up in a co-sell motion towards corporate accounts and enterprise. But interestingly, when we talk about SMB, which is sort of our core market for most of our partners anyway, I think we had really good discussions with Microsoft that we as QBS sort of become a community that is getting those leads that Microsoft gets through their demand centers and through their inside sales, and so that we can then dispatch those leads to our partners, right? So I think that was also very good message for our partners, that Microsoft really sees the QBS community as being not only capable but being a key component in the co-sell when it comes to the mid-market customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is probably, because you discussed already the AppSource as such, and this is also a good transition into the next chapter around the Cloud Solution Provider Program, because what I found really interesting is the fact that Microsoft is having a vision whereby if you happen to be in AppSource at some point in time, if you then agree to the commercial conditions, then you can directly integrate yourself into the Cloud Solution Provider Program. So that's sort of the vision that they have, is that you have a solution, you have IP of any sort, you put it on AppSource, you agree with Microsoft on the commercial conditions, and then your product or your solution can be placed inside the Cloud Solution Provider catalog, which is, I think, a very compelling mission that makes clear how much Microsoft is really investing in the Cloud Solution Provider Program. And I'm just wondering, I mean, Will, since I think the largest cloud solution provider market for us at QBS at this point in time is really the UK. Mm-hmm. So if you look at the Inspire and sort of the news that they got out of the cloud solution provider program, what did you take back home?
So one thing that I've got to say really surprised me. Now, I'm going to use some Microsoft licensing jargon here, guys. And I'm going to talk about something called the EA, the Enterprise Agreement. Now, historically, Microsoft would do these bespoke one-off agreements on a customer-by-customer basis. And quite frankly, the EA was designed for, was originally aimed at organizations buying 500 seats of something upwards. What was really interesting and absolutely fantastic to hear is that Microsoft's focus from whether it's from the S of SMB all the way through to the top of the corporate accounts space, therefore their licensing program of choice is going to be CSP. I think Michael and I were kind of really surprised and quite blown away when Microsoft announced this huge Walmart deal. So Walmart, we've all heard of Walmart, reasonably large company, right? We would have expected to hear this business being transacted on a super bespoke enterprise agreement. In fact, it was all done on CSP using standardized pricing. So Microsoft are moving really rapidly to this standardized licensing model, which does a few things. The big thing for me, though, is it levels the playing field for absolutely every single Dynamics partner and transactor in the UK. So I think that's huge. Number two, Microsoft are making big investments in their tooling and reporting for partners around CSP as well. So when you transact your CSP via QBS, you will then have access to all sorts of really fantastic insights in terms of who's you've sold and deployed Business Central or D365 for sales into your customer. You can actually see things like who's using the application. Who's using the application most frequently? What parts of the application are they actually using? Which means that you can go back in and add some and do a value add service to say, well, you've invested in this ERP application. I see you using the sales ledger and the general ledger. What's your purchasing department doing? It doesn't seem to be being used that much. And that suddenly pivots the whole conversation from being a responsive, reactive conversation to an entirely proactive conversation. I absolutely love that. And you guys should be pretty excited about that, because you suddenly get these insights that you never would have had before. So CSP for me in FY19 is an absolute game changer. So takeaway for me, if you're not engaged in the CSP program, you really should be. And speak to your QBS account manager about it.
No, I think it's also interesting if you look at it from a platform perspective, right? Today, Microsoft still has different licensing platforms. So they still have Open, they still have EAs, they still have now the CSP. But what they intended now to do, and which they announced now officially at Inspire, is to go to what they call the one commercial platform. And the one commercial platform, and you see a bit of that in the two screenshots there. Basically, they have like three motions in the one commerce platform. One is the Microsoft-enabled license go-to-market, and that continues to be the enterprise agreement, and in a much more restricted form, just for the very complex deals and things that you cannot do standardized, as you said. Well, then partner-led, which is all about CSP. But Microsoft will continue to also offer self-serve, meaning web direct. But all three happen to go to the same commercial platform. And so not only does that provide Microsoft a lot of insight, but it also means, as you can tell, that there should be a lot of simplification in terms of the licensing program that we have seen so far. Which doesn't mean that this will happen overnight, and that overnight, the Dynamics price list will go away completely. But this is the direction, and as you said, Will, that this is where we all should place our bet, is going in this partner-led model with the cloud solution provider program.
Yeah, totally.
Well, Well, talking a bit about this sales strategy that we understood for our partners, if we can go to the next slide. Mark, you already talked a bit about expanding the portfolio. Could you elaborate a bit on what you take back home as a sales strategy really for your partners? How would you advise them for the next fiscal year that Microsoft has?
I'll try to explain my thinking. Expanding the portfolio isn't just an opportunity to I think land and expand is the phrase that Will's keen on using.
Great phrase.
Initially selling a solution and then upselling other applications around that. It's basically selling, providing your customers with a complete solution, and understanding their needs from the very beginning, and providing them with what they exactly need as a product moving forward. That's the core of the message that I got from Microsoft. If our partners, if you as a partner are looking to grow your customer base, then you need to be thinking outside of the box. Look at IP verticalization, as I've mentioned before, but also again consider partnerships. How you can deliver a range of services for your customers, and be that trusted advisor and support their growth and their success. And that's basically what I'm hoping to advise the partner community within the UK.
So I think that's you make some interesting points there. Obviously, land and expand and again expansion of skill sets. But I think one of the, and this came out in a lot of conversations with partners, and actually in particular American partners, whether they were Dynamics or Office 365 or modern workplaces, Microsoft describes it, is there are a few things that partners seem to be talking about in a business application sale today that they weren't talking about 3 years ago, 5 years ago. And there's number one is security, being part and parcel of the sales conversation, and being able to very, very fluently talk about the Microsoft strategy, the Microsoft policy around security and the security policies around Azure. And number two was mobile. Mobile kept coming up again and again and again. Now, it's kind of interesting because there's no Windows Mobile anymore, but mobile was actually is actually a big lever in a lot of these sales conversations, because we can see one of the stats on the slide somewhere. Someone says, here we go, 72.3% of the US workforce with mobile works by 2020. Well, I mean, we're already beyond the tipping point of 50% today, right? So we need to modernize our sales execution. Lots of us have been selling NAV in particular. I hasten to add, have been selling NAV in the same way that we kind of always have. Yes, we've used the latest and greatest versions of NAV. We've used the latest and greatest versions of ISVs with the product, and most of us these days seem to be using Power BI in our demos. But I think we do need to think about what our sales evolution looks like to be able to take advantage of some of the big Microsoft investments. When I sell Microsoft stuff, I typically talk about the whole Microsoft stack and the whole Microsoft cloud investment. Why? Because no one else is doing it. No one else is doing it compared to making a similar type of investment. And actually, prospects, they feel such a high level of reassurance around that it actually reduces some of the perceptions of, let's say, risk and fear and uncertainty that people feel within the sales cycle, right? And I think we've been probably a little bit guilty in the past of not eloquently being able to talk through that Microsoft strategy. And just so for me, front and center is the modernization of our sales execution.
It's a great point. I mean, the sort of security theme is not only, as you said, part of what the dialogue is when you talk about a solution based on Azure and the mobility, but I also think, it is a great service business in itself. And I just put up a few of those statistics that were presented, because apparently, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of our partners being, let's say, very active in the services business around security, data privacy. It was more a given that is connected to, the business application, but you could argue, it is a business in itself. And so as such, I think if we talk about what Mark just said, expanding business, that might be actually also one opportunity to look into, whether or not you should expand your service portfolio to take care or proactively around things like GDPR and security, and how you make sure that the customer's endpoints, whatever they are in a secure environment.
Yeah, and I also think one of the stats that kind of that's been rolling around in my head a lot is that I think traditionally Microsoft partners started off as on a ratio of 1 to 4, and the ratio of 1 to 4 is every dollar spent on Microsoft stuff, $4 was spent on services, on the partner services, partner delivery services, support services, etc. If I remember correctly, and Michael, Mark, please correct me, that ratio has shifted dramatically from 1 to 4 to 1 to 9.950, 920 or something.
$9.64.
Okay, thank you for writing that down. That's huge, and I think I love having these points every year where you can do a little bit of self-reflection in terms of, not only how we're doing as a business, but how we can, but most importantly, how we can help partners look at their business in a slightly different way. And maybe a bit of homework for everybody on this call. Why don't you go and figure out what your software to services ratio actually is? I remember, and there's actually a few of you on this call, I did a study with, I'm going to say 7 or 8 years ago when I was still in Microsoft, where we actually looked at this ratio, and primarily on new business, it was 1 to 2. Now, if you look at if you look at the total lifetime value of that customer, it probably would have ended up being something like 1 to 4. But we know that the wallet share is there available for you today to get to that 1 to 9.
Yeah, well, I think in the first call note that Gabriella presented on Monday morning, she pitched the question that to the partners, what is going to be your next growth? What is going to be your next growth opportunity? What's going to be your next $1 billion idea that's going to contribute towards that $100 billion prediction from Wall Street? I mean, the figures came out towards the latter part of last week that Microsoft have achieved $100 billion for the first time in their history, and all of the partners on the call today and all of the partners at Inspire were part of that growth. But they don't. The clear message was that they don't want to stop there. They want to earn the next $100 billion, and become the go-to in tech business globally for every single business and every single household across the world. So the question is that the partner should be thinking about is where is your next opportunity, and where are you going to see growth within your business? And service is key. Is part of that growth strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a good segue probably to sort of the last slide, where we were trying to put together what we believe can be recommendations to partners here on the call. And so, Will, why don't you start with your favorite recommendations?
So yeah, they're all getting just to the callers here. They're all getting bored with me within QBS for keep banging on about this for the last few days. But there's such a huge opportunity around the Power Suite. Power Suite is Power Apps, Flow, and Power BI. If you haven't played with the application around Business Central or D365 for Sales, have a play with it. Also, get your head around the Common Data Service. The Common Data Service is the infrastructure that basically ties together all of the different Dynamics 365 apps. It is Microsoft's biggest single investment. Have a chat with your QBS account manager. How you can leverage CSP within your organization and your customers' organizations. Don't forget, in October, which is, I'm going to looking at my calendar, I would say is 3 months away. Microsoft is going to be launching something called Dynamics 365 Business Central on-prem, which will be available on CSP. Right? So, we got to be in the game, guys.
And I think it's also, I mean, one of the things that obviously we as QBS want to invest quite heavily on, so that you as partners can focus on what you can do best. So we really have it on our agenda to invest and therefore provide you with opportunities to outsource some of the operational functions to us, and that can even include things like marketing, obviously, but the whole enablement piece that we have. And I think partnering is on the one hand side, obviously, the partner relationship that we have with you guys, but also then amongst each other or even outside of the QBS community to find opportunities where you can partner, where you find additional capabilities and capacity, as we said, or simply business opportunities you can tap into. I think from that perspective, also the Microsoft Partner Platform is probably becoming just too powerful. And maybe now becoming a little too complex. If you think about all the different solutions that Microsoft has to Azure, I mean, Azure in itself is hard to really embrace because it's just so big. I mean, the services that they offer there,
hundreds.
So I think you have to rely on other partners to make use of it, right? I think that is also then true for developing your next strategy, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think, Michael, when we talk about have a strategy around something, we say it means go build a practice around something. To me, it's have an answer. Whether it's partner to partner. I mean, a number of you guys on this call work with infrastructure partners today, cloud infrastructure partners today. You need to think you need to do a little bit of research, have a think about what AI means for you as well in that regard. Was it you, Michael, that used the term democratization of AI earlier on in the call?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely.
Microsoft are bringing at a rapid rate, making these technologies available for all of these, for all of our partners and all of our customers, and your customers will be reading about this stuff, right? So, have a think about what it means for you.
Excellent, yeah. And just as a note, probably in terms of recommendation, if you also want to get a little more familiar with the product news that Microsoft had, just look at the conversation window. So Arjen Janssen from Mainz United, who was actually with us at the Inspire, not only had Arjen a call last Thursday already for our partners, but you can also see a document that he's linking on where you find a lot more new release notes for custom engagement, Business Central, finance and operation, as well as the Power Platform that we discussed a couple of times. So excellent holiday read. So you have the link in our conversation. Great, guys. So I think, you know, from our perspective, that was sort of the highlight for the Inspire conference. Obviously, a lot more details, and over time we will pick up on those topics. Those slides actually that we referred to during this call, there is this digital experience at Inspire, so you can always get to the My Inspire website and then see those sessions yourself if you want to. But why don't we open it up now if anyone has questions or maybe also comments on what you heard so far and what that means for your business and your priorities. I think people can unmute themselves. Is that correct, Danielle?
Yes, they can, but also use the IM is also possible.
Yeah.
Is this the first time QBS partners are going to be shy? Wow.
No.
Oh, we have a question from Natasha. What should the key focus be from a marketing perspective? Mark, I think you're probably best positioned to deal with that one, mate.
Okay. Natasha, thanks for your question. It's key focus is, and the theme from Microsoft was understanding the customer, understanding the customer's pain points, and also addressing the questions that they invariably ask you as partners to solve in your solutions. Using your, it's very much digitally focused, developing relevant content that's based around not so much product, but based around as I said, the industry issues that those customers are facing day in, day out. Build a strategy around content. Don't just think that you can write articles based on an industry. Have a strategy. Build that into your business plan as well, and focus on a particular target market. And one of the other messages was as well is if you don't have a target market, to go and create that target audience.
Find one. Yeah.
Use the social platforms that are available to you, such as LinkedIn, key to lead generation these days, and its integration with Dynamics is also an important part of the strategy. But target your find your target market. Approach them strategically. Think about the messaging that you're going to deliver to that target market, and then engage, nurture, and then close.
Yeah, I think you make some good points there, Mark. What I would say is that when Microsoft did, if you like, a partner spotlight throughout the week, the thing that most of them had in common was an industry or vertical solution. You know, they called out companies like Campus 360, who's a big American ISV that focuses in on university campuses, has a CRM solution for university campuses, for example. And you know, these, and actually over the last 2-3 years, we've certainly seen those with a more vertical focus grow a great deal faster than those that haven't got a vertical focus. So, yeah, I completely agree there, mate.
You just one further thing is that you become more compelling to your target audience if you're focusing on a core message. If you have mixed messaging to a generic audience, then you're less likely to win opportunities.
Okay. No, thanks for that. Any further questions or commentaries people might have before we have a few more minutes to use? If not, I think, obviously we are all more than happy to take additional feedback and questions over mail, over a call, a chat, whatever you prefer. But I think it was actually a great conference. Would you agree, guys?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was terrifying that it was in Vegas. And certainly the UK partners do enjoy, I'm going to call it networking. It's going to be in Vegas, is it, for the next 5 years? Is that right? Yeah. So, guys, we've got another question coming in from Jesse. Jesse's asking, is there any news on licensing of perpetual versus subscription? Perpetual is going to carry on. So in terms of Dynamics price list, you'll still be able to buy it available on Business Central. We don't know in what form that will be post-October. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some changes. In terms of subscription licensing, in terms of the NAB subscription, there's a big, for me personally, there's a question mark around that. And when we have clarity, you guys will get clarity. But, so the existing perpetual business isn't going to go away. But we do need to figure out CSP. Okay. Another question coming in. You guys have all waited until the last minute. Bloody typical. Nick, BC accreditation. We had a conversation with Microsoft about when that's going to be. We haven't been given any. We haven't been given any dates yet, but we have been told that it will be required at some point. These things do take time. And Microsoft do recognize that they want to maintain the quality of partners in the NAV/BC channel. Okay, it's something that take it from the guys at QBS. We are very, very, very keen to see this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Excellent. All right. Yep.
So I was going to say one thing, guys. If you haven't been to an Inspire or a WPC before, do see if you can make it, because it is an incredibly worthwhile experience, particularly seeing this in Vegas. Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. So Arjen just clarified the customer engagement side, Enterprise Plus Remote on the Power Platform. So thanks, Arjen, for that. So with it, I'm going to thank Mark, Will, the rest of the team. Now, actually, you will get access to our business report, obviously, that we're going to hand out to our QBS partner community pretty soon. So sign up for your copy of the business report, which will have a lot more details. Also links to the various sessions that we felt were important so that you can take a look at it. So Mark, thanks for doing the majority of the work to put that together this year. So appreciate that. But again, wait for the business report to come out, which has all the details that you want. And with that, again, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. For those who are not yet on vacation, hope you have a great time to relax. For those who are coming back, happy to go back to work, and looking forward to see many of you when we do the next round of QB Shares and other engagements. And with that, many thanks, and talk to you soon.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.